Hello and happy Sunday. I hope you had a wonderful, peaceful, restful weekend. Pardon the glisten, I just finished a workout. I wanted to give you some information that you can probably use during the week that will help you meet your weight loss goals, not necessarily within a week, but that'll get you on the right track. So, if you're looking to lose weight like some of us, the good news is you probably don't have to diet. Follow these steps to help you achieve your weight loss goals without having to be on a heavily restrictive eating plan. So there's keto, there's intermittent fasting, there's all sorts of diets out there, there's low carb. Those things actually do work, but for some of us, including myself, if you're not someone that can just pick up and cut out a large percentage of foods from your diet, I have something that will hopefully be easier for you. It's definitely helped me. So for me, the trick to losing weight has been to focus on whole foods. I am currently at what I would call my first weight loss benchmark, but to be fair, it was like a pretty aggressive one. So I've lost about 15 pounds in the past month, maybe 2 months, let's say. For me, this is square one, which means this is the weight I was at when I originally began to try to get fit and lose weight. And that would have been back at the beginning of the pandemic, let's say. Last year, I lost quite a bit of weight and I was about 10 pounds down from where I am right now. I returned to my old ways of eating because I didn't realize that insulin resistance played a huge role in water retention and not being able to lose weight for me personally. Now I'm equipped with knowledge and I am determined to surpass the weight I was at last year, achieve my ultimate weight loss goal, and maintain the results. But that was just a little background info on me. Let's get into why whole foods may be your key to losing weight. So when I say whole foods, I mean foods that are the least processed as possible. We're talking fruits, vegetables. You can eat some grains. I avoid most grains because, like I said, insulin resistance has been a thing for me. And so I just kind of avoid grains except oats, but I'll get into why I allow myself oats right now. And probably will continue to be able to eat oats because they don't bother me, but I'll explain more of that later. I should also say that you don't have to cut out all grains even depending on what works for you. You can do whole grains and you can do some of the less common grains that people eat over here in the US, like amaranth, and you can do quinoa, which has become more popular. You can do spelt. I think spelt is okay. You can do millet. There are a lot of whole grains, ancient grains that people don't really eat every day in at least this Western country that probably won't bother you as long as they're part of like a balanced whole foods diet. So I'm going to tell you a few substitutions that I've been able to make and what some of my food vices, let's call them. I know that wording is strong, but foods that triggered insulin spikes and things that were basically sabotaging my healthy diet, healthy eating, weight loss efforts. So I really love chips. I love potato chips. I love tortilla chips. I love just about any type of chip you can think of. I know some people like to substitute chips with kale chips, like potato chips with kale chips. I actually really like kale chips, but I don't necessarily do that. I'll tell you what works for me. So in particular, nachos are a food that I can eat every day, like all day, without a second thought. Nachos aren't that great for you though, especially if you load the dish down with chips and then put your toppings on top. The toppings aren't necessarily the worst part. It's good to have protein like ground beef. I prefer lean ground beef, but if you're gonna eat meat, you can get your protein from beef or chicken or turkey. You could do steak on top. You could, if you don't eat meat, do beans. You could do tofu, which is what I do now. I make a ground beef substitute with tofu. But what's really made the difference is that I don't do the chips anymore. If I'm craving nachos, I'll turn it into a salad. I will put a bed of good hearty lettuce on the plate and I will load it down with the nacho toppings. I do them homemade. I do all the cheese I want, all of the, usually tofu for me, but I'm not opposed to making it with ground beef. I've done it before. All the peppers, the more veggies and like veggie type herb toppings fresh toppings you add to your nachos, the better it's going to be for you because you're just adding more vitamins. But the key is to substitute the nacho chips with lettuce. And if you still need that nacho flavor, I recommend putting no more than like 5 chips on the side of the plate so you can, eat them as you go. Definitely food order matters. And I'm probably going to do a separate video on that because it is a game changer. If you are going to put a few nachos on the side of your plate, like nacho tortilla chips, definitely start by eating the lettuce and the toppings first. Just like eat maybe half of it first, half of the dish, then you start eating your chips. And what that is going to do is blunt the insulin spike. The thing about insulin is that if your body has too much of it going on, it's going to retain fat and cause inflammation, and it's going to be very difficult for you to lose weight. So what we want to do is avoid the insulin spikes. Something else I've been doing, I like desserts, let's say, and occasionally I'll have a taste for like a candy or something like that. So a while ago, I actually cut out, I'll say like a year, maybe 2 years ago, I cut out, probably not 2 years because I was eating chocolate bars. Anyway, let's say a year ago, I cut out traditional candy and I started eating the sugar-free candy. There are so many options and sugar-free candy varieties available on the market now. Even Starburst has come out with a sugar-free candy. But if you want to save money, because they tend to cost more, although I will say, like, there used to be, XOXO used to make sugar-free chocolate, and it used to be at Whole Foods all the time, but I haven't seen it lately. But it was pretty good. Anyway, if you want to save money, you can melt your own chocolate, and if you need to sweeten it, use like a substitute sweetener. I try to err on the side of natural stuff like monk fruit or stevia. That's just an aside though. You can also make desserts that way, but that's not for this video. Maybe I'll do another video around Thanksgiving. And actually, funny enough, before I realized that I was insulin resistant, I made a sugar-free entire Thanksgiving meal for my brother, and he loved it. And he loves his junk food, so that says a lot. Anyway, back on track. So what I'm doing now to substitute sweets, obviously you can go for fruit. Now, if you are diabetic, you may not be able to do fruit. Like, I highly recommend, if you suspect you have a blood sugar issue, or if you know that you're diabetic or insulin resistant, start testing your blood sugar. That was a game changer for me because I discovered that my blood sugar was much higher than I thought. I wasn't in the diabetic range, but I was always on the high side of normal, or like slightly like a point or two into the pre-diabetic range. So I just say that I'm insulin resistant, or it's improving. I have been insulin resistant because I'm on the high side of normal. It's important to know this. Doctors won't necessarily tell you that you're approaching insulin resistant as long as your readings are normal. So I highly recommend using a continuous blood glucose monitor or testing your blood sugar yourself with finger pricks. The tester I use is actually painless, more or less, and it's made by Accu-Check. I will add a link in the description in case anyone wants to try that out. So anyway, back on track. What I like to do to substitute candy and sweets is to make smoothies. If you're making smoothies and still keeping your regular eating habits, they're probably not going to help you all that much in terms of weight loss. Yes, you'll be getting extra vitamins. Yes, you'll feel full after drinking your smoothie, but if you're drinking a smoothie and eating as much food as you normally eat, you're getting extra calories, taking them in. And depending on what you use to make your smoothies, you also might be spiking your blood sugar, but that's another, again, different story for a different day. What I do with my smoothies is I always put a handful of leafy greens in the smoothie, and I add 2 tablespoons of psyllium husk. Psyllium husk is fiber basically made from psyllium leaves, and what it does is block the insulin spike. Even if you have like lots of sugary fruits and things in your smoothie, even if you put in like a protein powder, adding fiber is gonna make the sugars break down and absorb much more slowly, and it won't cause your body to overload itself with insulin. Also, if you add that fiber and the leafy greens to your smoothie, it's going to keep you full for longer. So you'll end up eating less food, actually. So if I'm craving something sweet, if I'm craving something candy-ish, I will do a smoothie with something like berries. If I want it really sweet, I'll add a ripe banana. The riper, the better. I am not a huge banana fan, but I always use them in my smoothies because they give me that sweetness as if it's been sweetened, but really it's just a banana. And if you do your berries, maybe add a tiny bit of orange juice and your leafy greens. Also, I add cinnamon and ginger. You're not going to taste a banana. And I just touched on something else. Adding spices like cinnamon and ginger to your smoothie actually help curb inflammation. They help with water retention, and they're going to help you with your weight loss and be good for your stomach as well. Cinnamon also helps up your metabolism because it's a good herb to block insulin spikes. So there you have three things: the psyllium husk, the cinnamon, and the leafy greens, and technically ginger helps too, but all those things help with your blood sugar. They keep it lower and more steady over time. And the last tip I'm going to give you is to substitute, like if you're feeling snackish, go with nuts. You can make your own nut mix. You can buy a nut mix. You can just use like almonds, like a single type of nut at one time. I love eating peanuts all the time. They're very because nuts can get kind of pricey with these grocery prices these days. Peanuts are actually like in the lower price range. They are like a very well-rounded food. They have a good mineral profile. Actually, peanuts are legumes, but that's a whole other thing. Doesn't really matter. Beans and legumes, also good whole foods for you. So either way you want to slice it. Peanuts, almonds, pistachios, walnuts, whatever type of nuts you like. I would say don't add dried fruit, because dried fruit, and that goes for if you're going to buy like a nut mix, get one without the dried fruit, because dried fruit can actually spike your blood sugar. And the bonus kind of tip slash kind of a caveat that I'm going to add to this is focus on one thing at a time, and you won't feel like you're restricting yourself. Make sure everything you eat is a whole food. That means for lunch, you're not doing sandwiches, you're doing salads. You're cutting out the bread. Definitely cut out the bread. Terrible for your metabolism, terrible for blood sugar. We're not over here buying fresh breads like the Europeans that have like whole grain ingredients and fermentation bacteria, which actually helps to break down sugar. No, we're buying like loaf bread out of the grocery store that's I don't know how old. Skip it. If you got to go to Subway at lunch, get a salad, don't get a sub. And if you must have a salad, use sprouted or whole grain bread, but it's better to just skip the bread, I think. So eat salads, eat, nuts for snacks, eat whole foods. If you're craving potato chips, eat a baked potato instead. But just focus on one thing at a time. And the one thing you're going to be focusing on is not eating processed foods, sticking to your whole foods. You have like a wide world of food that you can eat. Think back to the Garden of Eden. You can eat like all the fruits and vegetables, and even like I would say you can do lean meats and things like that if you need to, if you want to. Because remember, we're trying to make this a way of eating that's healthy, that'll support your weight loss, and that is adaptable to your lifestyle. So we're not trying to restrict you too much. Stick to that. I guarantee that you will feel fuller longer. You will eat less. You will be more fulfilled when you eat, and you will definitely start to lose weight. And if you don't, see a doctor. You may have like some other metabolic things like diabetes or insulin resistance going on, and seeing your doctor, having them run labs can only help you get things under control and meet your weight loss goals. On top of that, I'm going to say right now, I don't think you should worry too much about like when people say, oh, well, nuts make you fat. Here's what I tell myself. I can either eat this handful of nuts or I can go eat some potato chips. That'll definitely make you fat. The choice is yours. Basically, pick and choose your battles. Focus on eating whole foods. Focus on what's here in front of you. And don't worry about, oh my God, apples and carrots have sugar. Actually, if you focus on just sticking to a whole diet, a whole foods diet, those things tend to work themselves out because while yes, apples have sugar, they also have fiber. And if you think about it, if you were to switch to a diet of nothing but apples all day, every day, you're probably not going to be 300 pounds. Look at all the plants that animals eat and they're not walking around, obese. Not to body shame or to criticize anyone, but I mean, just look at it. Okay, so bears are big and pandas eat like bamboo, but they're just made that way, whatever. We're human beings. We can do whole foods and we will definitely be healthier for it. So that's all for this video. I will see you again soon in the next one. Till then, take care, be well, have a great week, and bye for now.